What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, your host of the Growls One Roar podcast. How's it going, folks? Hey, 2 seconds. You just heard me say Carolina Dad. I will say, if you would like to know my real name, and I'm not going to tell you right now, you can go back and listen to the episode of WFNZ where I'm featured on there. Or better yet, you can wait because I do plan on posting a clip of that. All right, down to business. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers coming off of so-so performance. I don't even know if I'd call it so-so, but it's preseason, so we kind of push it away to say, ugh. All right, let's move on. Moving on to practice 11 and 12. Training camp, at least the portion where fans are going to be involved, is practically over, folks. Like this week is it. Got a few practices coming up. Joint practice with the Jets, preseason game. And we move on to Buffalo, have a week off. The NFL season is here, college football right around the corner. With all that said, let's get you caught up on all things Carolina Panthers over the last 2 days. All right, folks, let's dive right in. We're going to be breaking down, as usual, clips from the press conference, give you highlights on a few things that we heard that's been reported. Yeah, we'll wrap up the show. So let's get right to it. Agenda. Practice 11 recap, practice 12 recap. And because we're in the fluid part of the season, we'll take a look at the transactions that have transpired. One thing to call out, the kicking battle is officially over in the Carolinas. Eddie Pineiro has won the job over Harrison Mevis. Harrison Mevis being released today. I think part of the reason that he was released is the fact that you've got all these injuries stacking up. Offensive line that, when we got down to the end of the last game, I think we had 5 linemen. That was it. Never a good position to be in. I know there's a lot of other circumstances around it because you had your starters sitting out. Either way, bringing in some depth there. So I think that's the reason he gets moved off, but we'll talk about it in a second. Training camp, folks. Like I said, training camp is coming to an end. Practice 11 and 12. There's one practice tomorrow. I'm recording this on the 11th, so you may even have had that practice, or that practice may have come and gone by the time we get here. Practice tomorrow, Monday the 12th. Then on the 14th, which is Wednesday, and joint practice with the Jets on the 15th. It's only one day with the Jets, which I think is a smart decision, considering what we've seen in the NFL so far this preseason with some of those joint practices. So, hey, let's keep it civil. Do it one day, get the most of it out that you can. And it makes me wonder, how much will we actually see of Bryce Young and the starters against the Jets? I guess that's to be determined. But yeah, training camp almost wrapped up. Now we'll talk about practice number 11, which was Saturday. Got to hear from Dave Canalis, Eli Leota, Clayon Chason. So let's dive right in. Now, quick recap of the practice, and I will say Panthers.com is your go-to source to get this information. Of course, you can follow the beat writers, reporters. They do a nice job. So I kind of just pulled in bits and pieces from what they reported and what we've seen. This was the hottest practice. Speaking of the one on Saturday, they practiced at 1 o'clock. I mean, it was hot. It was hot here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Humid, probably the closest conditions that they've had to Walford this year in camp. They've had a really nice break. Well, I had one other thing to say. One other thing about the practice itself, they did bring in, I wanted to call it Pop Warner team, but I think it's called POW. But they practiced with another youth program, joint practice together. It's a pretty cool moment to see. Injury impact. So coming out of the game, we knew there were some injuries. Backup center Cade Mays is out with an AC sprain. Another reason that you see us bringing on some of these other signings. And rookie Jaden Crumity has a high ankle sprain. So not insignificant, but pretty significant injuries. And we may see a little bit more of Andrew Rame. With Cade Mays being the backup center, it's Austin, probably Brady Christensen if he's moved over. I don't know what the rotation is going to look like this week. Rookie Xavier Legette showed improvement. He's still battling the foot injury, but he is starting to be able to move around. He's joining really that mass unit of folks that are working their way back up. And Eli Leota continues to impress. Very impressive in the game the other night. Still showing that dominance in practice. Yeah, no, if you have not followed the news, and I don't think maybe I did talk about it in the last video, the plane issue landing here in Charlotte, going off the runway. Luckily, everyone was safe, nothing major, but they did have to sit around for quite a while, is what they said. And there were, I saw fans posting this. A lot of former players there at practice, kind of boosted morale. The other thing they had Philly Brown. I don't know if it was this there yesterday because my days blend together when I look at tweets. They did have Philly Brown there. They had a section on the general side of general admission for Panthers legends to get an autograph. Whether or not you think he's a Panthers legend, that's your decision. But I do think it's a cool feature for camp, and it's not something that they were able to do back in Wofford, Spartanburg. So I think I like some of these, enhancements that they've made to the process. All right, Dave Canalis. It is PAL, the PAL Football League. So they joined in. We already hit on some of the high notes with Cade Mays talking about the shoulder, the AC sprain, Crumity. Really, where we are today is like the players who did play, those are the ones that you're able to evaluate right now. Not meaning you can't evaluate them, but these guys are putting the film on tape. And again, we know this is an audition for the Panthers. It's an audition for everyone else in the NFL. We also heard him talk a little bit about the complexities of one being a play caller, but also being the head coach. It's a new experience. I mean, last year was the first time as an offensive coordinator calling plays. This year, he's the coordinator calling plays and the head coach. But I don't think we should undermine Brad Idzik's role. Like, Canalis has talked about this throughout camp, throughout the offseason, how involved Idzik is in coordinating, and I don't think he's just sitting there twiddling his thumbs with his title. Like, he may not be calling the plays, but I think he does help a lot in orchestrating and in getting this thing to run together to stay on schedule. But that was something new for Canalis. He did have his first official challenge. Also, just being able to talk to the officials on the sideline. It was cool to see him over there. Coach thought they'd show a few more shots of him, but take it. We're kind of a safe but eventful landing. Yeah, and we talked about that. Now let's run a clip of the Canalis presser.
What are you able to do in a practice like this that you weren't before, now that you have some game tape to work with these guys and fix some things?
Yeah, the film's invaluable for everybody, right? And we know we had a number of guys that didn't play, but to see those reps, to see the little adjustments and the things that we can improve on, is huge. So we took advantage of that. And then just today on the field, it's kind of like you're practicing two teams almost. You got a group of guys who didn't play in the game, so we're pushing them to get their running in. You got a whole other group who some of those guys played, 50 plus reps in this game and just were completely just outstanding. 5 linemen to get us through it at the end. Guys like Nick Thurman, TJ Smith, who just like really, battled the whole time to make sure we had people in the rotation there. So I'm really proud of those guys. Jamie Robinson, special teams, nickel, safety, just all over the field, being able to just help us. And for those guys, what a great opportunity to get more film on tape to just improve, and to really show us what they're about.
So number one, I want to apologize for those that are watching this episode. I just spent the first 7 or 8 minutes. I had clips. I had everything pulled up for y'all, and I wasn't sharing it. And then I went to play this clip and realized, oh, I don't have this sharing up. So anyways, there we go. So you did get to hear a little bit about how he's evaluating these guys. One thing, when you talk about Jamie Robinson, we know where he sits on the depth chart right now is the 3rd nickel cornerback. Not even really in the bucket with the safeties, but he was making a lot of plays. And I've got another episode coming out with the 53-man roster breakdown. I'm actually recording it right after this to give you my first 53-man roster prediction. And it was tough. It was tough to go through that list when I started adding them up. But you hear high praises like that, and sure, I'd love to be so sophisticated that I could just go in here and document every time a player is mentioned. But I think it does help. And like we talked about recency bias, what you produce on the field, what you do can help set you up for, hopefully being able to make the roster. All right. Let's move on to Eli Leota, really one of the stars of the preseason the other night. Talking a little bit about practice. Now, he's talking about practicing. He was really talking about playing in cooler, rainy weather and how that was a nice change, because the game the other night, nice conditions, although, we're not going to have any primetime games under the lights, but he liked it, being able to travel and play like that. Now, as we get adjusted or the team gets adjusted, I think part of the reason they're doing this 1 o'clock kickoff is like, hey, we're going to have some games like that earlier in the year. Conditions are going to vary based off of where you travel, and you're opening up against New Orleans in a dome. But that second week against the Chargers, I know it'll be cooler by then, but still get acclimated. And after a year in the system, and we're going to hear a clip of this in a little bit, he feels more comfortable with his communication, playing faster, learning from the players and coaches, focusing on improving his technique. Has to go with vision and awareness. And yeah, he's known for his energy and effort, which we've seen. So I'm excited for him. Let's run that clip.
Good film. Coaches always say, "Hey, it's great to get guys good film out there." What do you feel like you left an impression of?
I just always playing hard, but that shouldn't be like something to be. And this is the NFL. Effort should always be the number one. It should be the standard. But just trying to be consistent and improve every day is my goal, and just trying to stack days as well. But, yeah.
Stacking days with consistency. That is what Eli Leota is doing. Making a name for himself, man. Again, undrafted, makes the practice squad, eventually gets caught up towards the end of the year. We saw him, getting some playing time. I mean, the guy showed us, at least in my opinion, his stock is up. Like, if you're evaluating stock in these guys, Eli Leota is someone that is on the rise. Closing it out, speaking of another edge position, we have Clayon Chason. Remember Clayon coming over, former first-round pick out of Jacksonville, looking for a new home. We're going to hear in a second why Carolina, what fit for him. But speaking through some of the initial pieces that he talked about, one, the opportunity to play for a new team, the fit in the 3-4, and now he thinks that, it really suits him in the outside linebacker position. His main goal in training camp, daily improvement, contributing to the team, focusing on earning respect, and then attention through his performance. He does appreciate the fresh start at this career and his stage and the importance of making the most out of this opportunity, which we know, like, when you look at our depth and where we sit right now, you need to have him there. Values learning from Jadeveon Clowney and who wasn't. And that's, again, a lot of this off-field, on-field attention to detail, controlling your body, what that looks like. And talking about that, let's hear why he landed in Carolina.
Decision where we come in here for an opportunity, but it is a team that has struggled the last couple of years.
I think we have a lot of similarities. I think as far as the team, if it's my personality, I'm a gritty guy. I want to go out there and get it regardless of any means, without the expectations or whatever who may put upon us. And I think that's the goal, and that's the identity of what we have going forward. So everything just looked like a perfect fit as far as both of us, and I was excited. I'm excited they gave me opportunity.
Excited for the opportunity, as am I. Now, I know he was running with the ones with DJ out and DJ Johnson, DJ One, I should say, one of the DJs, running with the ones, bumped down on the depth chart. I do think he's going to have to be a rotational piece. Like, when you look at the 53-man roster, at least how it is assembled today, or likely to be assembled with the folks that are on the team, we're going to need to see him step up early as a rotational piece till we get DJ One, Barno back. I think between him and Leota, there's a good chance that he makes the roster, at least in the early stages. All right. Practice 12, which was today, August 11th, Sunday. Concluding this, we heard from Dave Canalis, Eddie Pineiro, and Adam Thielen. Little did Eddie know, or maybe he did know, probably didn't, that he would win the starting kicker job for the Panthers right after this practice. So there you go. And I guess we'll talk more about the kicking competition in just a second when we actually get to Eddie. But let's run through Dave Canalis. I guess before we do that, talk about day 12. Panthers head coach Dave Canalis focused on building the offense around quarterback Bryce Young, emphasizing resilience and the importance of taking a risk, even if it means occasionally throwing interceptions. And that is what happened. Bryce Young threw an interception. Someone posted it. It was not a great decision. He's rolling out, and then moving up in the pocket, and then throwing across his body, across the field, picked off by Xavier Woods. I believe that's who it was picked off. Not a fantastic throw, but hey, this is the part of camp. This is why you learn. Somebody's counting the number of INTs, which is like 3 right now. So I'm not big on getting too worked up on it. I'm glad he's making those mistakes right now, seeing what he can get away with, because it does seem a lot more relaxed this year. I think the question for me when we talk about Bryce Young, I think because we haven't seen him in the preseason, we know how last year ended. A lot of people are just holding their breath right now, holding their breath. Did you know that Bryce Young starting week 1 this year will be the first time we've had the same quarterback under center in Carolina since 18 and 19 in back-to-back years with Cam Newton? It has been quite a journey to get to this point. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of trades, a lot of, fill in the gap players during that time. So anyways, what else do we have going on here? Yeah, we talked about the interceptions, decision making. Adam Thielen, which we'll run a clip, and I actually don't remember because this is what I get for putting this together earlier in the day. I do have a clip from Thielen. He did talk a lot about Bryce Young and what he sees out of him this year. I think that's what I clipped, but we'll see. Eddie Pineiro, which, hey, we'll get into him in just a second with the new kickoff rules, what he learned. Yeah, team continuing to show progress. Let's move on to Dave Canalis and his presser. Yeah, we already talked about this. They did have, as they advance in, they're doing a lot of more situational stuff now. So packages for short yardage, goal line, pushing the players to go through like when they're available. So one of the things that was asked about is, the number of reps and how are you kind of throttling guys like Jadeveon Clowney and ensuring that you're getting the most out of them. Like that was specifically brought up how he viewed Clowney as a veteran, and the way he described it is like, hey, we're going to load manage when we need to, but at the same time, when it's their time to be out there and take a rep, we want to see 110%, and that's what he's getting out of the players right now. Ability to bounce back from bad plays. So again, we heard about the interception. I think that's going to be a big piece, and hearing Bryce in year 2, and I'm like 99% sure I clipped this one from Adam. Otherwise, I'm going to sound like an idiot. But in year 2 with Bryce Young, I think we are seeing that a little more confidence in him when he does make a mistake to be able to bounce back, making those challenging throws. Let's see. Did talk about the new kickoff rule, how that could impact roster decisions, and that is actually a clip that I'm going to play. When we talk about roster decisions, not the kicker itself, but the players involved in the kickoff and kickoff return. All right, let's run it.
Game under your belt, the new kickoff rule. Do you have an idea how that change will shape kind of some of the roster decisions? Is there maybe more of an emphasis on linebackers versus corners, whatever the case may be?
I think it's similar. The biggest change would be really the returner, right? Just knowing that guy's going to get a lot of opportunities. So that not just your punt returner, but the actual kickoff return specialist, becomes a really valuable deal for a lot of guys to show what they can do and make a roster. So whether it's in the running back room, receiver room, or DB room, it's just you're looking for somebody who's got a feel for stretching those blocks and making those cuts. And so it's definitely something that we look at there. As far as the coverage units, it's pretty much the same type of guys. It's those backers, it's those DBs, and if you have a special offensive guy who can cover, that's always a bonus.
Nope. So I do think it will have a little bit of impact again once we get towards the end of the roster cuts down here. Yeah. New rules, new NFL, lots of changes. All right, Eddie Pineiro, our man Eddie Pineiro, talk about kicking competition. It's over. It's done. no more competition here as he beats out Harrison Mevis. One thing I'll say, unrelated to the kicking competition, we did hear that the yard games are back, and this is something I learned from WFNZ, Mac and Bone, talking about the yard games with Johnny Hecker, JJ Jensen, and everything that goes with that. Oh, which is great to hear, and I did tweet that out, a clip of Eddie Pineiro talking about that, and got a retweet from JJ Jensen, which was nice. But here we go. Eddie Pineiro is your new kicker. Now he did, as we go through this is before we got the news, but did talk about the adjustments with the new kickoff rules. Really, something I said on the last tweet is like you do have an adjustment in the style of kick. He's not having to kick it as far and as hard because you're trying to hit it into that landing zone. So it's like going from a driver to maybe a 3-wood or even a wedge at some point, trying to get some loft on it and land it within a certain distance. Now, going through, he does feel like this is his best camp yet from a kicking performance. I mean, statistically, we know he didn't kick the other night. That was Harrison Mevis. However, during camp at least, it seems like he had the upper edge. I think Mevis missed a few more kicks. I don't think Mevis was a terrible kicker. I think it just boiled down to, one, a lot of the injuries that we talked about. And also, when you think about Harrison Mevis, if you're a rookie head coach and GM, you're going to be putting a lot of faith in an undrafted kicker versus an experienced NFL kicker. So, sure, maybe if you hit it out of the park and he goes out here, and Mevis, that is 100% on the season, knocking kicks left and right, you look like a genius. But on the flip side, if you go out here and he just bombs and starts to miss key kicks, and you had a established kicker, you're going to look silly. But in this instance, you've got an Eddie Pineiro. You roll with him, which I feel confident in Eddie, even though some people don't. But you take Eddie Pineiro, and if something ever did go bad, it was just terrible. Like, you look smarter at that point and making the decision to move on versus it's just the measuring of the unknown. And maybe Mevis does turn into something. I know Harrison Buckner was here. People love to point to that. But at the same time, I'm not going to read too much into it. So anyways, let's hear about Eddie and his thoughts in the offseason.
Like you're striking it like.
I feel really good. Yeah, I feel like I'm striking the ball really good. This is one of my best camps, I would say, in my career right now. Hitting the ball well. I feel like my times are good. So yeah.
Anything you felt like, yeah, that's one thing I want to brush up a little, or
for sure, probably I would say mostly kickoffs, trying to drive the ball and do different things now that the rules changed. That's been a little competitive, but we got some good stuff. Hopefully, I can show one here on Saturday. We got some cooking. Yeah.
Nice. I don't know what he's got cooking on the kickoff, but I guess we'll see. Should be fun times. Now, the other thing I should have said is he also addressed having Dave Canalis, Latino descent, being the head coach, of course, Eddie Pineiro, also Latino, and just that was a cool moment for him. So there you go. All right, Adam Thielen wrapping it up today. At the end of practice, values of physical practice, emphasizing engaging and intense physical practice to help simulate the games. And yeah, making the game situations a little bit easier. Bryce Young's progress, he observed the quarterback, saying that he's grown more comfortable, trusting in his role, leading to improved accuracy, better decision-making, quicker release. Talked about that. He was questioned on, if he thought the offense should be playing in the preseason. Deferred that to the coaching staff. Said, "Yep, I trust the coaching staff in their decision. Their plan." Said the practices and joint sessions should adequately prepare them. He is open to playing in the preseason if needed. Benefits of joint practice, having it in a controlled environment. Again, they practiced with the Jets last year. It's beneficial for real game simulation. While minimizing the risk of altercations. Again, we don't want to get into too many fights out there. So yeah, Thielen also downplayed the idea of being a coach on the field, So just focus on his performance. All right, let's run the clip of Adam talking about Bryce as receivers.
Adam, what are you seeing out of Bryce that he benefited from playing last year that he may not have, had he been allowed to sit and watch the whole season, he probably wouldn't be ahead of it at this point?
Yeah, I think his ability to handle adversity, right? Whether that be in a series, in a practice, in a week, handling adversity as an offense, as an individual, as a team, and then kind of just using that experience to, hey, show up the next day and go to work, right? Like, it's not always going to be pretty, but we got to find a way to continue to get better as an offense individually, and he's doing that in a very confident way. There's no hanging his head. There's no make a bad throw and blame himself or other people. It's just like you can just see it just immediately. All right, next play. And that confidence, that kind of mentality, people feed off that, right? People see that as receivers, as offensive linemen, as running backs. You kind of just see that, you feel it, and then you're like, oh, it's the next play.
Does this offense need?
Really good answer. Long-winded too. I really like Adam though. I love listening to him. He is a valuable piece to this team. Security blanket for Bryce Young entering into this season. And yeah, I like the development. I mean, talk about all the adversity that Bryce Young went through last year. I do think that's going to help him heading into this season. All right, transaction wise, it has been busy. And you know what? Of course, I did not clip this. So let's switch over to Panthers.com since as I'm recording this live, realized I did not get in the last transaction. It's part of, clipping this early in the morning and coming back to it to record at night. All right, we're going to show you the live version so that it is accurate like it should be. Here we go. Share. We're going to try this and let's do it. Okay. All right, lots to talk through. Last time we were on here, I guess we should say the Caden Stearns stint in Carolina was very short. He just did get picked up by Philadelphia, but claimed Caden Stearns. We waived J.D. Dorenzo, then waived Stearns off of a failed physical. Steven Sullivan, excuse me, man, tough day, was released on an injury settlement. Then we signed defensive tackle Jaden Peavy, signed defensive tackle Walter Palmore, offensive lineman Jack Anderson, and re-signed Tavion Robinson. So you just waived him on the 5th. He's already back less than a week later. Unfortunately, we waived Jaden Sheridan and cornerback Willie Drew. Willie Drew was the one who got burnt on that play the other night from Joe Milton. And then waived injured wide receiver Devin Tompkins. That was a tough man. I feel like Tompkins, route running wise, was set up in a good position to make the team, or at least compete for that tail end spot, but not going to happen. And then waived kicker Harrison Mevis and signed offensive tackle Tyler Smith. All right, let's get back on track. I don't think I have anything else. Yeah, I'm clicking through. Trying to click through here, and there's nothing to share. So I'll take it. So we'll close out this episode, folks. I got another one coming. I like to split my episodes up at least best I can, because I know an hour is a long time. So I'll make you listen to an hour and 2 episodes if you wish, or you get to pick and choose which one to listen to. I appreciate y'all following along. The episode coming out shortly after, and until next time, I will see y'all later.